Commissioner. Good morning.
Good. You weren't here a minute ago, were you?
No.
Good.
Are you talking about me?
Yeah.
I know he's telling stories. His lips are moving.
I had an accident in the quote hallway back there. And I said some very inappropriate files, expletives that were not deleted.
Gotcha. Good morning, good morning. Morning. How's our local media doing today? Yeah?
Pretty good.
Good. Come to us from beautiful Spokane. I'm sorry.
Are ya?
Well, we like the little
Well,
competition between North Idaho and Spokane.
Well, technically, we don't have any competition in North Idaho. Media, speaking of the media.
Oh, okay, gotcha. You want me to wear these, or are they good there? Or?
If you, as long as you stay back there, you're
Okay.
good to sleep.
Okay, good there.
That'll wake you up in the morning.
Okay. Do we want to start?
Anytime you're ready.
All right. Good morning. We called this press conference today to obviously talk about a significant event that recently occurred, but we have been receiving a lot of information regarding many significant events that have occurred since January. And significant, as I mean significant that we've never seen this cluster of these significant events, such as barricaded suspects, assault with deadly weapons, chasing known felons, shooting at us, more barricaded suspects, and of course, murders in such a short period of time. So I'd like for you to take away what happened just 2 nights ago, a brief overview of that, and also what's occurred in the last 2 months and where we are with handling these significant events here in Kootenai County. So, I'd like to bring your attention to February the 28th at approximately 7:48. Joanne Rogers and her husband, Dennis, were cleaning up after a meal. And there was a detection of a fire, and there was a call made to our 911 center that there was a fire, and Mr. Rogers went out to investigate the fire, and Mr. Rogers was ultimately found murdered by people who came to their aid because they thought there was a fire on their property. At approximately 7:48 was the initial call. 7:56 is when Hauser Lake Fire Department arrived on scene. 7:58, deputies arrived on scene. And at approximately 8:37, there was a male that was detained who was and is a subject of interest, but has not been formally charged with any event from this date. What brings us to an additional conversation we need to have is that we put out, the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office put out additional pages for personnel because we had 2 crime scene locations that we needed to contain. And it was very difficult to find personnel to come to this scene because of the exhaustive vacancy shortages that we're experiencing on the Sheriff's Office. We put out 3 pages. We had 2 deputies respond, but I'd like for you to understand is that we have deputies assigned to the SWAT team. We have deputies assigned to the drone team. We have deputies assigned to crime scene investigation. So we have deputies that are working the jail because we have a 30% vacancy factor in the jail. We have deputies, patrol deputies working the dispatch center because we have a 30% vacancy in the dispatch center. I feel like we are on a ship and I'm plugging these holes, but we just keep sinking. So we prepared a packet for you. And this packet gives a good indicator of what we're starting to experience here in North Idaho. And I'd like to draw your attention to the violent crime page. This violent crime page, in 2017, we reported 93 events. In 2021, we had 165 events. I'd like to bring your attention to arrests. We've had a population increase from about 139,000 people from 2000, I want to get the exact number for you. From 2009, we had 139,000 people approximately, to where we're at today is about 180,000. If you look at where our arrests are, they're going down. That's not a healthy statistic to have when we have 40,000 more people, 30 to 40,000 more people in this county. You would expect the arrests would continue to go up. But what we're seeing in major cities across this country is the same thing. It's not healthy for that city. It's not healthy for Kootenai County. Because with the amount of population that we have seen and that we are currently seeing, we need to make sure that our arrest, or what we call crime prevention, is actively occurring. But our statistics are showing us something opposite. Look at the next page, which is psychological. In 2015, we had 57 psychological calls for service. In 2021, we're at 126. That is a significant increase, and I believe that we will likely surpass that 126 very easily in 2022. We have a mental health crisis, we have a drug affliction crisis here in Kootenai County. The next statistics is, let's look at our special weapons deployment. In 2017 and 16, but 2017, we had 6 deployments of our special weapons team. In 2021, we had 21. Now, that's a significant number because there's a lot of work resources that go in to a SWAT deployment. It's not we take our secure vehicle out there and handle a situation, we leave. There's a lot of pre-work that goes into it, whether it's an investigation, a criminal investigation, ongoing investigation, contacting witnesses, contacting victims, the actual deployment of the resources of the SWAT team, the special weapons team. It's a very labor-intensive process that occurs there. We don't clear these calls in 20 minutes. 6 in 2017 and 21 in 2021. Let's talk about the next category, is total death investigations. In 2015, we had 98. In 2021, we had 156. Now, why is that relevant? Because the same circumstances apply on this, that we can't clear an unattended death in 20 minutes. These scenes take a lot of resources at the scene, And then afterwards, there's an investigation on scene, there's an investigation afterwards that consumes a lot of our investigative resources. And we have seen a significant jump in those cases. And those are resources that it takes for us to handle the public service needs here in this community. Let's look at the next slide. And the next slide is some of our categories that'll show you from 2015 to 2021 in virtually, except DUI, but DUI, driving under the influence, could be impacted by the amount of calls for service that we're handling, and we don't have that discretionary time to do that crime prevention or that proactive law enforcement, because we are continuously responding to cold calls or domestic calls or other calls for service. So the DUI did go down. Violent crimes, we talked about that. Psychological, and then of course look at the arrest. In 2015, 3,179. In 2021, 2,295. And we've had a significant population increase since then. And that's not a healthy sign. Misdemeanor citations, that is the last column there. And from 2015, we had 346 to almost 600 in 2021. I have talked to many leaders in this community, and I asked them, how many of the inmates at the Kootenai County Jail, how many do you think are in for a felony, percentage-wise? I'm talking about community leaders that were born and raised here. And they'll tell me, 15, 20, 25%. No. The sheet that you have, the last, or not the last sheet, but the next sheet, currently today, our felony population at the Kootenai County Jail is an 80% felony population, 20% misdemeanor. Dan Mattis, who is our current undersheriff, when he came on this department, those two categories were flipped. It was an 80% misdemeanor and 20% felony. And Dan Mattis is here today, and Dan Mattis concludes, much like a local reporter concluded, that he has never seen the level of violence and the type of activity that we've had in the last 2 months, not even in the summer months of Kootenai County. And a local reporter mentioned the other day, when they were referring to an incident in Kootenai County, it was a shooting, they said they had to clarify, well, which shooting are you talking about? Which was a data point for her, because she said, well, we've never had to clarify what shooting in Kootenai County we're talking about. Which brings us to our last couple of pages. In 2009, I had 5 patrol deputies and 1 sergeant with a population of about 139,000 people. 2022, I have 6 patrol deputies and 1 sergeant on that particular same shift. So we've had a population increase of 80,000, and we've increased 1 deputy on that particular shift, which generally is the busiest of all shifts. There is stress in our human resources, and there is stress in our infrastructure, such as the inmates at the jail. We are at functional capacity every day, and this is a winter month. We generally don't reach anything close to maximum capacity until the summer months. But we're seeing that right now here in January and February, where we are at functional capacity. And then, of course, our vacancy factor. We are at critical mass in our jail division with running at about a 30% vacancy factor. We are a good majority of those people are under 2 years. And that's not a healthy sign either. We like to see people that have an average tenure, you know, into the 5 and 6 and 7, at least spread out percentage-wise. I have a 30% vacancy factor in our dispatch. Law enforcement is not a 40-hour-a-week job. We have to cover 168 hours a week. There are some leaders in this community, when I ask them, how many hours do you have to cover at your office? And they say, well, 40. How many do I have to cover? Well, 40. No, I cover 168. 168 hours every day from Benewah County to Bonner County. And one of, if not the fastest growing counties in the United States. Something I wish wasn't true. Don't we? Don't we wish it wasn't true? That's for sure.
Absolutely.
Patrol division. We're down currently 6 positions. I got 5 deputies in training. We have a total of about 54 line positions for patrol, which gives us about just under a 20% vacancy factor. But the problem is I'm using all these patrol deputies in the jail. I'm using patrol deputies to plug these holes in dispatch in 2 areas that were hemorrhaging. So with that, I'll entertain any questions that you have on any of the information that I have distributed. Yes, sir.
When talking about trying to plug the holes, understaffed, having to use deputies in places that you'd rather them not be, you want them on the streets patrolling, what do you need? What are we asking for then? What's the fix?
We believe that because of the housing market here in Kootenai County, that we have to raise the salary. Some of our jail positions, you can go down to Panda Express, you can go down to any restaurant or any box store and make more.
And
than-
start.
That's,
And you don't have to have a
and
background.
you don't have to do a background investigation, that's true. So we need to improve the wages here in Kootenai County. We need to improve them to a point where I can attract talent from other industries that already have housing and live here in Kootenai County to the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office.
And retain the people that we have.
Very true.
They-
Commissioner Brooks makes a great point.
Well, Bob and I have worked on this together, and it's not an easy one facet problem. It's a multifaceted problem. When you say 30%, vacancy, I mean, it's not a vacancy. We have a full house in the jail.
That's right.
Close to it.
That's for
It's-
sure.
It's in the people who have to help keep everybody safe, and that is, they keep themselves safe, they keep the prisoners safe. They have a lot of work to do all day long, but right now, like you say, you can go get a pretty good job at McDonald's or one of the big box stores and be paid more money.
So we're in a different employment atmosphere than we were years ago. I'm very proud that we have not lost one department member to go to another law enforcement agency at the same equivalent position. We've not lost one. We're losing them to other industries. We're losing them to be a lineman at some of our electrical companies. We've lost them to the medical field. We are losing them to construction.
And some people who transfer, say, to Spokane, what is their sign-on bonus now for a lateral transfer?
In the jail, I believe it's $10,000. In patrol, it's $15,000. And our hiring market is the same market as Spokane. So we may not be losing law enforcement officers to Spokane, or professional staff, but we're hiring from the same market, and that's where we need to.
Same pool.
Same pool. Yes.
When it comes to the psychological calls we're seeing, obviously an increase over since 2015. What resources could Kootenai County Sheriff's Office use to help deputies respond to those calls?
I would like to see a medical psychological evaluation team that's comprised of a mental health professional, maybe somebody from the Veterans Administration, because many of our calls are veterans. And then once the scene is stabilized, this team comes in and then deals with that individual. So,
And some additional training, if I may.
Sure.
For the deputies who encounter these things. So they are not gonna be junior psychologists, but they can understand what they're dealing with and how they can keep things as level as they can psychologically until they can get some professionals in there to deal with it.
What does responding to a psychological call for Kootenai County deputies look like today?
you know what? Very significant. It doesn't happen on a daily basis. It happens on a shift-to-shift basis. So generally, we have a lot of our population that is calling, that is threatening suicide, threatening to kill somebody else, and we just can't go in there like we would on a normal call. For instance, we had an event that similar situation, but it was next door to a school. So we have to, there's other resources and dynamics that we have to respond to when this person who is threatening suicide is next to a school. So we can't just handle these calls. We have to do a complete evaluation on the event. And that's a call next door to a school we just can't drive away from. Now, if this gentleman is out in the rural area and he doesn't have any neighbors next to him and he says, hey, I want to kill myself, I'm not going to jeopardize any member of this organization or on our SWAT team to go in there and get him. That's not going to happen. But this example next to a school is different. So each situation is evaluated on its own.
And the pandemic has vastly increased these kinds of calls and these problems in our community. And just the time. When I got here 20 years ago, over 20 years ago, there was an article in the paper, and it said there was a kidnapping in Kootenai County. And I went, oh, I'm gonna read that. It turns out somebody had kidnapped somebody's parrot. And that was
Big news. That was big news back then, yeah.
Yes, it was, and it's changed. Now it's a serious, big city type problems that we have that are heartbreaking and tragic.
Specific to the resources that deputies have when going into the psychological calls right now, are there any that they have, or is it a smaller group that you're asking for a bigger group, or is it just we just need them?
Well, all of the above. We need, obviously, we believe that we have the best trained personnel in the region. And when it comes to mental health or any other subject, we just need more resources to deal with this massive explosion of people that we're currently having. And the stress is showing it at the jail.
Do you guys
Yes,
have any plans to do a levy?
Well, I have no control over salary and benefits. That would be a question for Mr. Brooks. But I will say this, that there is a building that is being proposed to the tune of $25 million. And I'm not so sure that that's in our best interest right here in Kootenai County at this time. But I will defer that question to Commissioner Brooks.
I think there's a lot better ways to spend that kind of money. We have the ARPA funds that have been earmarked for Kootenai County, and there's a lot better ways to spend that than on a building, in my opinion. And I know the other commissioners differ with me on that. But I started 3 years ago trying to get wages up, get a matrix instituted that is a grid for the law enforcement here. People said, you'll never get that done. Well, I did get it done, but it wasn't perfect. And I said at that time, you get it done and then you make adjustments, okay? And what's happened is COVID, I mean, this pandemic has just totally gutted our community. And we have a new reality on the ground that we have to deal with. And we just can't say, oh, well, you know, it'll be okay, we'll give them a little cost of living allowance, we'll pay them decent. We have to, we can't pay at the top of the range probably, but boy, we can get up there. We need to for our own survival. I mean, this is not something, more people will be harmed. I mean, public safety is not the only issue in this county.
So I believe, but I'm not the keeper of the purses, that is a levy necessary? No. Is a redistribution of funds applicable? I believe so, yes.
And that makes sense to me too.
Are you hearing anything from Boise? Like, can you get help from state lawmakers and that sort of thing?
Go ahead. My answer is no.
Yeah, you know, I have reached out to the representatives and state senators, and I have told them that the problems that are occurring in Kootenai County are different than the problems that are occurring in Elmore County. So the same real estate, same property tax structure for all counties in Idaho isn't an effective strategy to keep up with our infrastructure stress that we're currently seeing. And that I believe that the commissioners should be given more tools in their toolbox to be able to make that infrastructure happen. So I'm having those conversations. Sometimes I feel like it's more progress if I hit my head on this block wall, but we won't give up.
And money is not the only answer to this problem. Just like everyone knows, money is not the prime reason people come or stay at a job, but it's in the top three. Working conditions are very important, and I believe in Kootenai County Sheriff's Office, we have some of the best working conditions in the industry, if you will, in the country. And with so many places defunding the police, come on over here. We have a good sheriff's office.
When
Yes,
would you
sir.
say the staffing issue started really in earnest? Was it a few years ago? Is it just really recent?
You know, I believe there's a culture within this government that for whatever reason, there's a reluctancy to want to pay employees a reasonable living wage
You mean in Kootenai County?
in Kootenai County.
I had to fight like the Dickens last time we did a budget to get a COLA in place. And a COLA, my goodness, this is to keep people even. This is not a pay increase, but some commissioners were talking about this as if it was a pay increase. It just kept them from sinking further down. And I agree with you, there's a
A great
culture in
example is
Kootenai
that
County.
is in 2021, the COLA cost of living average was 6.2, and we got a 2.1% cost of living raise. In 2020, it was about 6, and we got a 2. So we're significantly behind many of the other law enforcement agencies as we speak. But to the question, I think it's more of a culture, of a reluctancy that, hey, I don't expect us to be the highest paid, but I expect us to be right there.
Some clarification on the incident that happened Monday night
Yes.
on Hauser Lake Road. You said the Rogers were having dinner.
Had
They noticed-
completed it, yep.
They noticed a fire. He went out to investigate, and then neighbors came to help. Now, could you we don't know who pulled the trigger. The person that was arrested is a person of interest in the death of Mr. Rogers?
He's been arrested as a person of interest in the death, but this was a very, very multi-dynamic with two different crime scenes. So we are literally still interviewing witnesses and trying to decipher everything that happened. Because when you're in a moment like that, sometimes witnesses will see things that weren't possibly even true. But that's okay because we expect those. So it's a very, very dynamic event, and we're still trying to figure out some of that. Because we were on scene up until noon yesterday, or even longer, so it's still very fresh.
Now, can you confirm, Mr. Hazel, the other person that was shot and transported to the hospital, was he a neighbor coming to help? Do we know that yet? How did he get involved?
I am told that he was a neighbor who came to assist with the fire, not knowing that there was a more nefarious event going on.
And the firearm that Mr. Bennett was arrested with, was that registered to him? Do we know?
We're still in the early stages of that investigation, so.
Regarding the lack of deputies, I understand you're struggling to hire some, but do you need more, or in other words, are the county commissioners providing enough in the budget, but it's just a matter of you can't hire enough?
No, they're not providing enough because I need to attract from different industries here in Kootenai County. The average price of a home to live here now is almost $580,000. Rent, I'm having people quit because they have to go back to North Carolina and live with their parents because they're getting a notice of rent increase next month for $600.
There are people in other departments, professionals, not a clerk, but I mean somebody who's in the planning department, I'm thinking, college educated, qualified, and they take the job in Kootenai County, and 2 or 3 days later, they come back and go, can't take it. I'm sorry, I can't find a place to live on the salary you're paying.
And we are having the same problem. We've had applicants that said, hey, I can't afford
Can't
to
live here.
can't live here.
So you want to fill those vacancies and more?
Yeah, I believe our strategy is from existing markets, but we need to pay at a comparable salary and benefit with other agencies.
Parity. We have good benefits. We have good benefits in Kootenai County, and right now, we got kind of so-so pay in the sheriff's office. And I would like to see us have attractive pay in the sheriff's office and the same good benefits. I believe that would retain more people and give Bob more tools to work with. He's a good sheriff. He just needs the tools to work with. And if we don't do these things, he's gonna fail.
Regarding the shooting in Hauser, was there any indication that the suspect and the victim knew each other before?
Absolutely none. Yeah.
I
Yes,
know
ma'am.
that there was an initial report about a barn fire. Did the suspects set that barn on fire?
That's still under investigation. So that was what the initial call was, that their barn was on fire. And then,
Is there anything you want to say to, the public that's watching this, the trends that you're pointing out? Is there anything that people can do, or, letter writing campaigns or whatever, to try to put some pressure on getting more funding for you guys, or help?
I think it's a combination. We are growing at such a rapid pace here that growth and crime has caught up to Kootenai County. And we need to adequately address those concerns with adequate salary.
And don't be shy of people. We were talking to the people. Don't be shy to pick up the phone and call and ask specifically, I'd like to speak to each of the county commissioners separately and tell them what I think about pay and benefits for law enforcement people. And not just sworn people, but the entire department. They have.
Oh yeah, sworn and
people-
professional staff,
Yeah.
absolutely.
They have people who have worked here for a long time on relatively meager wages.
All right,
Sure.
yes, oh,
Just to kind of take us back a little bit, you mentioned that arrests trending down while population rises is an unhealthy statistic. Can you elaborate on that and what that means?
yes. So the best crime prevention tool that we have is proactive law enforcement. And that is locating bad guy before bad guy commits a crime. So proactive law enforcement is a strategy to prevent crime. But what we're seeing is we're seeing arrests going down because our unallocated time to go look for bad guy and to have deputies out in the field investigate crimes is going significantly down, where we just don't have the time and the resources to do those things anymore. That make sense?
And I want to make it clear that Bob does not set, the sheriff does not set the budget. He doesn't say, I'm going to spend this much money this year. The county commissioners, and there are 3 of us, decide how much he's going to spend. And oftentimes, in what categories you're going to spend it.
That's correct.
And sometimes, the sheriff, who is a professional here in law enforcement, agrees with us, and sometimes he doesn't. I tend to defer to the sheriff. So, I'm hoping we can all come together. And I have 2 good commissioners with me. I honestly don't think that they understand, and maybe they do, but maybe they don't. And these recent events have really kind of a wake-up call for the infrastructure, the government, the commissioners of Kootenai County. And it's a good time because the budget, we're just starting on it.
Well, it's an unfortunate time that brought us here today, but we had a SWAT commander from Spokane come up to our command post and says, hey, we're getting called out over here more than we are in Spokane anymore these days. So these are all data points that people are starting to pay attention, like this isn't the Sleepy Hollow that it once was. And we are projected to grow significantly in the next several years, and we need a sheriff's office commensurate with those needs.
Thank you guys very much for coming. Appreciate
right.
it. And we'll keep you updated on this stuff. And hopefully, in the near future, we can have all 3 commissioners here,
Yes.
right?
We did invite all 3.
You did.
We did invite all 3 commissioners. Thank you for coming.
My pleasure.
Dan Mattis, who's been here for how many years?
27, yeah.
If you'd like to have any discussions about some of the things that he has seen as far as
The trends.
the trends,
Yeah.
he's a good institutional history to talk to. All right, thank you very much.
Look at this.